PhD classes, which are all held on Saturdays. So that is going to be difficult for me. Now, and the other thing is, supposing we have people who are offline, okay, in your group today, I shall be looking at them for presentation in their respective classes if they are not able to give the presentation with you. Okay. So that flexibility is there. You need not bother. You can continue with the presentation. And if there are people in your group who are not about to present for whatever purposes, I will be covering them in their own class. Okay. I hope this is clear. Now, today, let us begin the class. And I will continue till maybe around 12:15 or so, and then we will have the group presentation. Okay. So before I start, now yours was the class where we had maximum progress in the previous week. So let me start with some questions. Now I want some of you to explain what the simple structure is. Just tell me, where had we stopped in the previous class? Just give me that
simple
update.
structure.
Simple structure only. Great, great, great. So tell me something that you remember about the simple structure. Did we do the demo in the previous class on simple structure?
Yes, ma'am. We have discussed about one small case.
We have discussed about one small case, no? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So tell me, what do you understand by this design?
When the organization is in growing stage, it contains simple structure and structural dimension. We have complexity low and formalization, centralization, formalization also low and centralization is high. And
okay,
it is also organic. General structure is organic.
Okay. What more? I think, others can also respond and help Shata out here. She's right.
Key part of the organization is the strategic apex.
And why is it called as a simple structure? What is the reason for the use of this word simple?
Ma'am, because here we have only apex and the core.
Very good, very good. We have only the apex and the operating core, which are functional. It is one of the most inexpensive designs to maintain, and it's one of the leanest and flattest organizations that you can see. Okay. So
there is no middle line in it. No middle line.
There is no middle line. There is no middle line, no techno, and no support
stuff,
which is functional in this organization, right? But when you have so many cases which can be given to you in the exam, my suggestion to you is please follow the power of elimination. So what do you do when you see a case and you see, supposing I have given you a caselet on Microsoft, right? Now, how do you know that simple structure will not apply on Microsoft in the first place? The first thing is size. The size of the organization is huge. So that is the reason why simple structure will not be applicable. Now, jahan pe size kam hai, simple structure can be applicable, but there can be another there can be another design form that also can be applicable for smaller sized organizations. And we will first do that design today and then move on to the others. Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you in the class effectively is that for that one single question on organization design, you please don't go by the power of selection, rather you go by the power of elimination. Ki ye nahi ho sakta, ye nahi ho sakta, ye nahi ho sakta, and then you appear at the right option. Okay. So supposing you've got a big sized organization, one option is already gone from you. That is simple. So you are playing around with the other 4 design options. But if the size of the organization is small, you can have two design options which can apply. One is the simple structure, the other is the adhocracy. So how will you make the right choice is what we are going to talk about now. Okay. Just give me a minute. I've already recorded this session, so don't worry. That will be shared with you. Yeah. So now let's go to the next option with us. Like I said, how do we not get confused with the right option for a small sized organization? So let's go straight away to the fifth design option that we have. Okay. And that's called as the advocacy. Okay. So typically, if someone is to ask me that what is the meaning of advocacy, how do I answer this question? I would probably answer it in the simplest or the most basic way that advocacy is the bipolar opposite of a bureaucracy. Okay, so whatever you understand a bureaucracy is, advocacy is just the 360-degree bipolar opposite to it. So that is your fifth design option. Now, before we get into this table, I would like to tell you the differences between the advocacy and the simple design. Okay, that is very important because दोनों में आप कंफ्यूज हो सकते हैं तो आप कैसे कंफ्यूज ना हो that is one thing that I would like to discuss here. Now, the first difference that you will find is in size. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of this difference? For example, if I'm looking at a simple structure, structure, size is always small. Always small. You cannot have simple structure in a large sized organization. But when I'm looking at advocacy can exist in every size, small, medium, and large. You can have advocacy in all sizes. Okay. So that is the biggest confusion. You can also have advocacy in small. You can have also advocacy in medium. You can also have advocacy in large. Okay. Now, the next big difference that you will see between the two is centralization. Okay. Centralization in a simple structure is always high. 95% of the time, simple designs have high degrees of centralization because the maximum influence in a simple structure comes from the apex or from the leaders. Okay. But on the other hand, in a advocacy, maximum to the maximum possible extent, you find something called as decentralization. Okay. So advocacies are rarely centralized. They have tremendous amount of decentralization. Okay. So now with these two, let us go ahead and look at the structure and design dimensions of the advocacy. Now, take a look at the first. That is complexity. Okay. Now in a advocacy, okay, once again, a little bit of the background, let me give you here. These are very often niche firms which employ a high degree of expertise. Okay. Now these firms have also been in existence for some time. Okay. Sometime, right? So they are not like the simple designs or simple structures where organization is fairly new, organization is like, in the growth phase. Not always. In advocacies, you will find that, you can also have firms which are heavily in existence for some amount of time. Firms also can be rarely, firms can be sometimes new as well. But these are basically, this word is very important for advocacy, and that word is niche. Okay. They're very specialized units. So that is the most important thing in advocacy. Now let's look at what we have here. See, in terms of complexity, even though, see, up till now, what have you understood? That if a company is small, if the size of the company is small, then complexity will remain low. Okay. But then यहाँ पे मैं बोल रही हूँ कि small भी हो सकता है, medium भी हो सकता है, large भी हो सकता है, but still complexity remains high. So supposing you have a small organization, in that case, how will complexity remain high? Because this is a firm that depends on social specialization. The extent of social specialization is very, very high. It is a niche firm which is created out of experts. So, when you are looking at these firms, these are heavily socially specialized. So that's the reason why complexity remains high. So to give you an example of this, if I'm looking at an ad agency, okay, you can talk of any agency, okay. You can talk of Leo Burnett, you can talk of whatever agencies you can think of, the successful ones. Most of the advertising agencies follow the advocacy design, okay. Supposing I'm looking at a research group called as the Oxford Group. Oxford Group was responsible for developing vaccines both for the Ebola virus and even the COVID-19. Okay. So this, if I'm looking at the Oxford Group, it also is a very beautiful example of a advocacy. It is a very niche unit which is formed for a very, very particular purpose, and it is populated with professionals from diverse fields. Okay. So in this case, complexity will always remain high. Now, and why is it remaining high? Because people in the unit, the organization, the group, the project is socially specialized. So you have professionals. And always remember, if this is the case, if social specialization is high, then centralization will be low. Remember all the time that social specialization has an inverse relationship with centralization. And it is common sense that if you are hiring experts, you are hiring experts because you want them to take decisions. You're not hiring experts to take, decisions on behalf of them. Okay. So wherever experts are hired, decision making is decentralized. So that is the case of centralization, which is low. Okay. Now you may ask that why is formalization low? You are saying that these forms have also existed for some time. Formalization is low for the simple, and always remember that when I'm saying high, low, or whatever, okay, these are all relative terms because I'm comparing them constantly with other organizations in existence. Okay. Formalization is relatively low. Why? Because these are organizations that always deal with new problems in the environment, new problems. So very often you don't have a precedence, and that's the reason why the extent of formalization is less. Okay. So what do you have in these organizations? High degrees of complexity with decentralization and slightly lower degrees of formalization. And these are extremely flexible organizations, quickly ready to adapt to the environment. So that's the reason why they are organic in nature. Now, when you look at design dimensions, what do you find? You find a moderate apex. Now, this is, please remember that this is very similar to that of a simple structure. Okay, but इसमें भी हम लोग confused नहीं होंगे, because what do we find here? We find that the operating pole is also blurred. The operating pole is also blurred. Why? Because these are very often niche firms which develop expertise in support activities. That support activity can be R&D, that support activity can be advertisement, that support activity can be filmmaking, can be anything. Okay. So basically, you have a decentralized unit with smaller levels of middle line, smaller levels of techno. Techno is not required here. There is no question of standardization, but a very large support unit, very large support unit. So the key part of the organization is support. Okay. It is no longer the strategic apex, it's the support, because the activities of the organization fall in the support category. Okay. So please remember that. So the key part of the organization is support. Okay. So when I'm looking at a think tank in an organization, okay, now that think tank will give you an excellent example of a advocacy. Okay. It's not anything else other than a advocacy. So now, if I were to give you an example, if I were to give you a demo of this, that will be, more relevant to you. Let us see whether you're able to do that or not. Okay. Case number 5, please take a look at that.
I'm adhocracy.
Yeah. So are you going to analyze this, Aliva? How you come to this conclusion? That analysis is more important.
Ma'am, if the complexity is high and the centralization also low in this case because the specialization is social specialization.
The main
Mhm.
work for the organization is the support R&D, which falls under the support because it's a new tech. It's all about new technology, invention of new technology.
Okay.
And here,
Operating core also blurred because it's written over here like they take decision whenever it's required.
Okay. Okay. And
they're having a small unit consisting of highly trained specialists. So this is the main feature of advocacy, and also there is least amount of rules and regulations required. That is less formalization, low formalization.
Less centralization
okay. Okay.
due,
Okay.
due
Okay.
to high social specialization.
Okay. Now, fair enough. So you're getting the hang of what advocacy can look like. Now, I think you have already gone through whatever is there in the case. So I can take it down and let us go to my slides where I will put it on a different slide and analyze it for you so that it remains in your head. Mm. Okay. Now, let us take a look at this. What do we have here? I'm starting with structure. Okay. Structure. Complexity. Complexity is high because of social specialization. They have very, very highly trained specialists. DARPA is a very interesting organization because it's called as the founder of the one thing that we cannot do without, that's the internet. Okay. So US military has given us some wonderful inventions, innovations, which we have used for all times to come. Okay. Now, so that's complexity for you. Then let's go to the next, which is formalization, because DARPA deals with ill-defined problems. That means the problems are not very defined and the problems are new. So that's the reason why the extent of formalization has got to be low. Okay. So if your problems are new, you do not have too much of a precedence. You are not expected to have a great deal of formalization. Then comes centralization. And this has been clearly mentioned in the case that the style of decision making was unconventional and decisions were taken as and when they were needed to be taken. So once again, centralization is low. And always remember that social specialization has an inverse relationship with centralization. So if you have more social specialization, you will have to decentralize. Now, when you come down to design, you do have an apex, but middle line is blurred, Why? Because decentralization exists. Techno structure and operating core are both blurred because the support does the work of both of them, whereas support becomes the key part of the organization. It's a flexible organization, has got to be flexible, and that's the reason why it is organic. And the key part of the organization is support. Okay. So please remember the biggest difference between adhocracy and what should I say? Your simple structure is existing in the high levels of complexity. Adhocracy will always have high levels of complexity and it always will be decentralized. Whereas when you're looking at a simple design, simple structure, 99% of the time has lower levels of complexity and very, very high degrees of centralization. तो इन्हीं दोनों के बीच में आप डिफरेंशिएट करेंगे जब भी यू आर गिवन अ स्मॉल साइज्ड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. स्मॉल साइज्ड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में दो ऑप्शन हो सकते हैं. वन कैन बी advocacy, one can be the simple structure. So this is how you're going to make the right choice. Okay. Am I clear? Do you have any doubts here? Anything that you want to ask?
Ma'am, if you will have gotten same question in exam, then we'll we have to write that much, then we'll get full mark or anything we have to add.
Okay. Same question in exam meaning what? Same organization जो demo में अभी दिखाया.
Question or 5 years, ma'am.
वैसे जितना बड़ा केसलेट है इट्स वन बिग पैराग्राफ उतना ही बड़ा आएगा 150 to 200 वर्ड्स का केसलेट but the organization will be new. Okay. And the questions the questions will be of two parts. The first is the question on the identification of design, where supposing you are identifying this as a adhocracy, you'll have to explain what an adhocracy is. Okay. And then you will have to come down to structure and design. And then you will have to come down to strengths and weaknesses. Okay. वो पूछा भी जाएगा आपको क्वेश्चन में, वो रहेगा भी. What do you think are the possible strengths and weaknesses of this design? And how is the particular design helping the organization survive in the environment? ऐसे करके एक question भी आएगा. Okay. So that's how, your marks will be divided. But maximum marks will be in the right identification of the organization design. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Supposing, okay, to answer your question in another way, supposing your identification is right, but your analysis is wrong, will you get marks? Answer is no. You will not get any marks. Okay? Your option is right, but your analysis is wrong, no marks. Because then I'm not sure whether that was your own identification or was somebody else's. Okay. So these are some disclaimers when you are doing organization design. Clear? Everyone is clear up till now? Now, please remember, whether we're looking at the simple structure or the adhocracy, we are dealing with organic designs. But abhi tak aapne to ye pucha hi nahi hai that if I have a big sized company, large sized company, what kind of designs will I have? When supposing the size of the company, dekho, aise hi karo. When in the exam you are facing a caselet, supposing the size of the company is small, you have only two options to explore. One is simple, one is adhocracy. But problem tabhi aayega when the company size is large. Kyunki you will have four options. What are those four options? Machine bureaucracy, professional bureaucracy, divisional design, and adhocracy. Ye charon mein you will have to find out which is the right option. Okay. So abhi tak we have not come to those options which suit very, very big firms. So let us do them. So let me go to the second design option. Okay. And that is called as, yes.
Ma'am, in this case 5 means it is there, it is written that apex, middle line, technostructure, all these are blurred, means all the works are done by this. Sorry, ma'am.
By the support. That is why they are called as blurred. Meaning even if they are there, not much work is expected out of them. Okay? Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is your second design option, which is called as a machine bureaucracy. Okay. Now, in Mintzberg's classifications, bureaucracies were of two types. One was the machine and the other was the professional. Okay. Now, forget about professional bureaucracy. Let's first try and understand the machine bureaucracy. Now, bureaucracy typically, is a organization design which was coined by Max Weber, okay, to suit very, very large sized organizations. Okay, we may talk big things, that every organization needs to be flexible, every organization needs to adapt to the environment, but एक चीज आप बिल्कुल यहाँ fit करके जाओ that when the size of the organization is large, okay, it has more than 50,000 employees, there will be some tendency for bureaucracy. Otherwise, if you are not able to ensure that coordination, then you will have anarchy in an organization which is large. Very difficult to coordinate. Ab kabhi, maybe you may have also faced this question that, organizations which were very successful, why have they disintegrated? Why have they gone into decline? Why were they not able to adapt to the environment? One of the biggest constraints is size. When you have a large size, it takes you a long time to make any change possible. Okay. Whereas when you have a very small size, it's easier for you to make a change possible. Okay. So bureaucracy was coined by Weber to deal with very, very big sized organizations. So let us see how they translate into design. So now let's give you some disclaimers before we go further. Okay. The first is the size of the organization, which is large to very large. Okay. That means the humongous amount of numbers. Then the second is the OLC phase of the organization life cycle phase is maturity. It is no longer growth. It is a stable organization which has already existed, secured a foothold in the market for quite some time. Now, the next stage or the next disclaimer is that it's an organization. It is an organization that depends on division of labor. These are very, very standardized organizations, okay? Standardized organizations. Okay. Now, so when, and the last point is vital, you please remember this. These are also called as functional designs. Please remember one thing, that all bureaucracies have something called as functional designs. So we have to understand what is the meaning of a functional design. Functional design kya hota hai? Okay. So now let's come back to the table. Let us see whether we are able to do this or not. Up till now, we have done two design options. First design option may the key part of the organization was strategic apex. In advocacy, the key part of the organization is the support. Dekhte hain machine bureaucracy, how does it pan out? Now, let us look at the first is structure. We will first do structure. Structure may complexity is very high. Why is complexity high? Because the size of the organization is large. Size hoga large, to complexity bhi zyada hoga, because it depends on expansion. Now, these are organizations with high degrees of division of labor. I think, when I was talking about division of labor and social specialization, I had also clearly told you that when you're looking at both of them, companies will not do only division of labor or only social specialization. They often combine the two of them, but companies can have a preference for division of labor or social specialization. Yahan pe the preference is for division of labor. So that's the reason why formalization is very high, okay? Because the extent of standardization is very, very high. Please look at the difference that you find between advocacy and bureaucracy. Advocacy mein formalization is very less, okay? You don't have too much of formalization because you don't have too much of precedence. But in bureaucracy, it completely depends on formalization, okay? Your business model is hinging on formalization or standardization, right? Now tell me one thing, that if complexity is high because of the size of the firm and formalization is also high, why you will have high degrees of centralization? हमारा common sense क्या कहता है? That अगर large unit है तो उसको decentralize करना चाहिए, नहीं तो वो dysfunctional हो जाएगा, right? But यहाँ तो अलग ही लिखा है, right?
It is not based on social specialization.
Very good, very good.
Based on division of labor.
Reference is for division of labor. If your preference is for division of labor, which is amounting or resulting in higher degrees of standardization, there is no need to decentralize decision making. Very often the company can centralize decision making and still function, which is what you see in a machine bureaucracy. Now, to give you an example of this, one great example is Starbucks. ब्यूरोक्रेसी लिखा है तो हमेशा सोचो नहीं कि गवर्नमेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ही आपको मिलेगा. You know, those are the ideas that you should simply take from your head and throw. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Starbucks is a beautiful example of a machine bureaucracy, and I wanted to bring to your notice this organization which has been so persevering, and it's one of the few organizations that has largely survived in a tea drinking closed country like China. Okay. Even Walmart, one of the biggest retailing giants, experienced a crushing failure in China. Okay. It was very difficult for Walmart to do business there. But Starbucks had established its own outlets, own, kind of a whatever, in a largely very, very different market as that of China. Okay. You will find all features of machine bureaucracy there. Complexity is high, because Starbucks as a size, you can understand that what is the size of the company. Formalization के बारे में कुछ बोलना चाहिए यहाँ पे. Formalization is very high because the business model of the company depends on standardization, right? You may say many things कि इंडिया में तो ये है, वो तो वहाँ है नहीं, लेकिन एक ही क्वेश्चन मुझे आपको पूछना है, that if you are looking at India alone, do you think you have too much variation in the product offerings? I mean, when you go to a Starbucks, you're fairly aware of what you are going to get. Okay. In terms of offerings, in terms of taste, in terms of price, in terms of everything. Okay. So the whole idea of this business model is not to create something new. It is to create something similar and give you that similar output day after day. Okay. So formalization remains high. Centralization is also high. Centralization is high because, the franchisee outlets do not, take a lot of decisions with regard to products or prices. Okay. Now, what is the general structural classification? It is mechanistic. It is no longer organic. It is a mechanistic design that you're talking about, and mechanistic meaning rigidity. Okay. Rigidity. Please remember, mechanistic designs are not geared for change. You are not talking about change the minute you talk of mechanistic designs. Now, if you look at the design dimensions, that also is very different. Now, because this is a big company, you will have all the 5 parts of the organization. Sare parts hai. Okay. Middle line is there because the size of the company is big. Techno structure is definitely there because the extent of standardization is very high. Now, support absolutely in-house, so it is large. But what is the key part of the organization? Key part of the organization is the techno structure. Okay. Why? I will give you another easier example of a machine bureaucracy, and that is McDonald's. That also is machine bureaucracy, by the way. Why is the techno the most important part?
It has analysts who are responsible for standardization in the organization.
Okay. Anything else? Wherever you find standardization is very high. Standardization is very high, meaning you don't have too many variations in products. हमको क्या लगता है कि हमेशा product variations अगर ज्यादा होता है तो companies will always innovate. No, innovation is very often found in standardization also. Innovations also found in giving you a uniform experience. So wherever standardization is high, who does standardization in a company? It is the techno structure that does standardization in any company that you are looking at, whether it is a McD's, it's a Starbucks, it's whatever. Okay. So that is the reason why in a machine bureaucracy, the key part of the organization is the techno structure. Okay. Always remember that. So now we have done structure and design of the machine bureaucracy. But what did I tell you? That जहां पे भी आप ये word देख रहे हो in design, bureaucracies have functional designs. So functional design कैसे दिखता है? So let's do a little bit of discussion on that, and then we'll go to the demo. Okay. Now let me just put it down for you. Now ये देखो. Supposing this is the CEO. I'm doing a flow chart of a organizational design. Let us say I have VP marketing. QA. Okay. Now I've just put down a partial charter. I have Vice President Marketing, Vice President Sales, HR, Finance, and Quality. Okay. Now this is the apex. This is the apex, right? Right or not? Huh? Now each of these would have hierarchies to them. Okay. So this is what is this? What is this? Vice Presidents. This is the middle line. Then this portion will be the operating core. Yes or not? Huh? Have
Yes,
you
ma'am.
understood this?
Yes.
ये
Yes, ma'am.
demarcation तो clear है ना? Now,
Yes.
functional, remember one thing, functional designs are those designs, write it down also, are those designs where after the apex, the first line of division is on the basis of the core business functions. Core business functions क्या है? Marketing, sales, purchase, inventory, supply chain, HR, IR, quality, R&D, all of these are core business functions, okay? So what is the meaning of a functional design? Functional design is that design where the first line of division after the strategic apex is the first line of division. So first line of division after the strategic apex is on the basis of the core business functions, okay? So which is what you see here. So this is called as a functional design. All bureaucracies will have functional designs. Yeah, बिल्कुल याद रखिए. Okay. Now I can show you another figure also. You can see this. This is called as functional organizations or departmentalization by functions. Now, what is the apex? Apex is here. General manager. Okay. Now, the first line of division after the apex is on the basis of the core business functions. You can see this. Finance, human resources, R&D, operations, and product marketing. Okay. So these are called as functional designs. Clear? Everyone?
Ma'am, in this case, the first layer will be the finance and human resources, sir.
No. In order to put everything together, this is how it has been done, the figure. But the figure is like this, okay? ऐसे है. GM, okay? The next flow chart is finance, HR, R&D, operations, and product marketing. All of them are at the same level. Okay?
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
ठीक है? Any questions to ask up till now? Remember, so everything is clear that bureaucracies meaning they are functional designs. They will not have any other design. Okay? And functional design का मतलब ही यही है. Okay? So now let's go to the demo. Let us see whether you are able to do it or not. Yes, can we go ahead with the analysis? Chalo, please start.
Complexity will be high, and the formalization also be high. And here is my doubt is maybe the centralization will low, I think, because there is the labor division of labor is social specialization, because the pilot staff and the cabin crew is the social specialization. I think that the centralization is low.
Okay.
I
And
have a doubt here that although we can claim that this is a machine bureaucracy, but as the organization life cycle phase is changing from maturity to some unstable position where there is high rates of attrition, constant tension between the staff. So how can we say that it is machine
It is
bureaucracy?
machine bureaucracy. So,
Also, ma'am, that design dimension, how we will get to know that key part of the organization is technostructure, nothing is mentioned like that.
okay. Now, आपको लग रहा है कि केस में ये सब डायरेक्टली मेंशन्ड होगा? पहला तो है कि बिल्कुल नहीं, otherwise there is nothing left for you to analyze. My second take is on Aliba's question that even, what's the meaning of maturity? Maturity means that, it's a company that has already achieved tremendous stability in business. Okay, in business. So, which is clearly given here that Delta has achieved tremendous economy of scales and has created a strong executive staff with years of experience. Okay. So that is the meaning of maturity. If I'm looking at any organization, at every stage in the organization life cycle, you will find these problems. You may find attrition, you may find, many elements which may threaten the organizational survival process. But maturity may be wo ho sakta hai. Okay. Now, and please remember that in all of these cases, there will be some lines, some sentences mentioned which will confuse you, but which are not very important to your analysis. So, ye case mein wo lines kya hai? Wo lines ye. Okay. These lines are actually not helping you analyze, but they are helping you confuse. ये हमेशा केस में रहता है, हर एक केस स्लिप में ये रहेगा. So you will not fall into that trap. What will you do? Let us go step by step. ठीक है? Now, firstly, let me look at complexity. Structure is very important. Structure को आप पहले आएंगे. Okay? Now, structure में complexity with 80,000 employees क्या होगा? High होगा या low होगा? High. Okay. It cannot be anything else because complexity means expansion. Okay. Now let us look at the next, which is formalization, right? There exist a number of standardized procedures for flight attendants, cabin crews, ground staff, and the pilots, which are adhered to strictly. Okay. So this is very, very important with an airline, with a domestic carrier like Delta. Otherwise, it's going to be a horrible experience for people who are flying the airlines. Okay. So formalization is high. Now let's come to centralization. Okay. I am giving you two examples to how you will find out whether centralization is high or low. Okay. Now let's look at the first one. Though the size of the company has increased tremendously, all major decisions with respect to staffing, finance, and operations are concentrated or taken at the headquarters, which is clearly telling you that decision making is certainly not decentralized. Then I will also come to the next part. Communication channels are vertical in nature, bringing information from the top of the hierarchy. It's a top-down communication channel, so which also tells you again that centralization is high. Okay. And it is because of this high centralization, you are having these problems. There's always a tussle between the headquarters and the subsidiaries. Okay. Samajh mein aaya? So what are you having now? You have high complexity, you have high formalization, and you have high centralization. So these are all the features of a machine bureaucracy. Now come to design. Design में ज़्यादा कुछ आपको information है नहीं. But a machine bureaucracy is expected to have all the 5 parts of the organization. And typically we come to this conclusion that the most important part of the organization is the technostructure, because this is a standardized unit. Okay. Standardized unit. And please remember that, when you're looking at a standardized unit, the number of professionals in a company will be relatively less than what you would find in, let us say, another unit like an adhocracy. Okay. So, if you remember, I had shown you the earlier, Ashish, you will have to mute yourself. Huh? If you remember, I had shown you the earlier demo of DARPA. DARPA mein every single staff who is there is a trained specialist. So in comparison to DARPA, in Delta, you will find that the number of professionals are slightly less than the people who do not have professional degrees. ये हमेशा रहता है machine bureaucracy में. Professional social specialization का मतलब क्या है? Social specialization का मतलब ये नहीं है कि these are the only people who can be called professionals. No, it's not like that. Social specialization का मतलब ये है that when you are calling a person a professional, that person has also got a professional degree to back up the claim to expertise. Okay. Division of labor में क्या issue है that the number of people with professional degrees will be less than the number of people with professional experience. Experience से लोग काम करते हैं, but professional degrees के साथ जितने लोग हैं वो थोड़े से कम होते हैं, which is what you find at Delta. Okay. So, understood or not that how you will make this analysis possible with whatever information is given to you. So, typically, if 3 things are there, that means centralization is high, formalization is high, and complexity is high, aankh band karke go for machine bureaucracy. Okay? Clear or not? Everybody? But the additional ye Delta mein, that kind of info is not given to you. But, when you find cases, there are some cases जिसमें कि वो information भी दिया जाता है. And what is that information? That information is with respect to functional designs. So functional designs के बारे में अगर दिया जाएगा, तो functional design का मतलब है कि core business functions जो है, उसी से departments create किए जाते हैं. So that information will also be given to you. अगर वो information है, तब भी आपको connect करना चाहिए कि oh, this is a functional design. So it is a bureaucracy. और मेरे पास bureaucracy में 2 ही option है. एक है machine, दूसरा है professional. Okay? So like that, you keep on eliminating till you come to the right option. If you do a little bit of practice, that elimination will be very fast and very quick. Okay? So clear or not, everyone? Any doubts up till now? Okay. Now, what did I tell you? That, if you have high degrees of complexity, high degrees of formalization, and high degrees of centralization, immediately you will associate this with a machine bureaucracy. So, what should be there in your mind now? That madam, has any other design also these features? और कोई डिजाइन में ये फीचर्स है क्या? अगर फीचर्स है तो फिर आप कंफ्यूज्ड हो जाओगे कि what will be the right option? Answer is yes. There is another design option जिसमें कि यही वाले फीचर्स आपको दिखाई देंगे. तो how you will differentiate between that option and machine bureaucracy? This is how I am teaching you, and this is how you will practice. Remember that. क्योंकि very often in the recruiting room when students are asked about organization design, एक बार TCS में ये पूछा गया था that since you have already studied OT, can you think of what possible design does TCS have and why? Zero answer. So if you have done this study, फटाफट in your mind you will be able to eliminate and go. और ऐसा कौन सा organization आएगा आपके campus में जिसके पास एक design नहीं है? Every organization will have a flowchart. Every organization will have a design, and this question can be asked to you now. This is not a question like what you would find in motivation or conflict or something else, where some kind of answers can be given, though that answer is also very difficult to get by. But in design, your answer has got to be accurate and factual. You cannot be in the world of fiction. Okay, that is all that I'm trying to say out here. So follow me very, very carefully. और जहाँ पे भी doubt है, please पूछो. Okay. So what did I say? That if in a machine bureaucracy, all the parameters of structure are high. Okay, high complexity, high formalization, high centralization. और कोई option है क्या जिसमें कि यही वाले features है? So we will first go to that, and we will see the difference between the two. Okay. So I'm doing a little bit of iteration. I'm not going, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. ऐसे नहीं कर रही हूँ. I'm going, doing a little bit of back and forth so that you get clarity. Okay. Now let me finish up with the strengths and weaknesses of the machine bureaucracy. Strengths, of course, functional designs are built to take care of economies of scale. Okay. जहाँ पे standardization is high, economies of scale are also very high. And you avoid any kind of duplication of resource. But weakness this weakness is actually very, very, very horrible. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of a functional silo? Functional silo ka matlab hai that, in functional designs, what happens is there is a conflict between functions all the time. Okay. Conflict between functions meaning, and this conflict can be very dangerous. That means finance thinks that it is more important than HR. HR can think that it is more important than marketing. So like that. So the idea is that, you are not only a finance professional, you also belong to the organization. But when you have a functional design, the focus is not on the organization, but rather it is on the function to which a person belongs to. Okay. So that becomes one of the biggest weaknesses, and the utility of this design can be found with size, that means large size and stable environment. So you can look at the examples: post offices, mass production companies, McDonald's, In and Out, and Starbucks. These are all examples of machine bureaucracies. Okay. So now from machine bureaucracies, let us jump to another design where you'll find the similar structural features, but वो बिल्कुल ही अलग design है. ठीक है? So let's do that. That is called as the divisional design. Okay. This is the most interesting out of all the 5 designs that we will learn. And divisional design is also the most expensive of all the designs. Meaning, if I ask you a question, that कौन से design option में आपको सबसे बड़ा size of organization दिखाई देगा? Your answer should be divisional. कौन से option में you will have the maximum expense? Your answer is divisional. Okay. So divisional design, let us do as the next option so that you should be able to differentiate between the two. ठीक है? Now divisional designs are not functional. Functional design का मतलब क्या है? कि the first, after the apex, the first line of division is on the basis of 4 business functions. But divisional designs are different. Okay. And divisional designs were done for a particular purpose. Let me tell you what that purpose is. The first instance of divisional designs were found in the Ford Motor Company. Okay, Henry Ford was the first to introduce the divisional designs. And if I, give you examples, automobile industry will give you beautiful examples of the divisional design. So let me just put a slide. Let me, kind of take you through those points. Okay. We'll shortly close here. So don't worry. And don't get confused. Ki, hey, Bhagwan, I will end up with the wrong design. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. You have been able to do much more difficult things. तो ये फिर क्या है? Just make your fundas clear. Now, in Ford, when Henry Ford asked a particular question, he said that we have small cars, we have mid-size SUVs, and we also have luxury cars. Luxury bhi hai. Okay. I want to know how much revenues come from each segment. Small car segment, which is the economy, mid-size SUVs, family cars, basically, and luxury cars. मुझे चाहिए कि each of these lines, how much revenues are they generating vis-a-vis the cost of operations. Okay. Now, at that point in time, Ford typically was always a bureaucracy. Okay. So his middle line or whatever were the vice presidents or jo bhi the, they were not able to come up with this answer. They said it's very difficult to separate each of these segments because that is not how our organization has been designed. Okay. And then there was someone who said that luxury cars are not doing well, and they are, because they're not doing well in the market, they're not selling well in the market, they're also impacting the cost of operations of the economy and the mid-size, which are actually doing well in the market. So then Ford said that let us redesign our organization and let us see how we can separate all of them. Okay. So what in effect I'm trying to do in my organization, I'm going to create 3 mini organizations. One is going to look at the small or the economy segment. One will look at the mid-size segment and the other will look at the luxury segment. Or तीनों में कोई connection नहीं होगा. Okay. So why he wanted to do that? He wanted to do that because of a simple reason that if there is a problem with this segment, why should this impact the mid-size and the small cars? No. So that was the simple idea in the mind. Now look at the difference in structure. Functional structure क्या होता है? CEO, HR, finance, operations, and let us say IR. Okay. So functions के basis पे आप segregate कर रहे हो. लेकिन divisional में what are you doing? How are you segregating? There is a apex. Okay. CEO. Then what am I doing? I'm doing small car segment, mid-size, and luxury. दोनों में difference दिख रहा है? Can you see the difference between the two? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes, ma'am.
this is the biggest difference in the functional and the divisional. Divisional structures or divisional designs are created on the basis of divisions, not functions. Okay. And these divisions can be of 3 types. Okay. So kya 3 types of divisions can you have? Okay. Now let's do it like this. Okay. Another slide, let me put in. Divisional designs depend on divisions, not functions, like you find in a bureaucracy. Divisions can be of 3 types, Okay. And what are they? The first is product. The second is geography. And the third is client. Okay. The first is product. The second is geography. And the third is client. यहाँ पे कौन सा division हो रहा है? यहाँ पे at Ford, when I'm creating 3, समझ में आ गया? These are product divisions. Okay. So I will stop here and we will start with the group presentations. In the next class, I will continue with divisional designs and we will see how divisional designs are different from machine bureaucracy, and yet the features of structure remain the same. Okay. Clear or not, everyone? Very good. So let us start with the group. Group में अगर कोई है offline student, please let me know. And if those offline students are not presenting, please do let me know. Okay. Yeah.
Ma'am, there are 3 offline students in our group.
Yeah.
Prince Bharadwaj, Ronit Sultania, and
Priyanshu Agarwal.
Priyanshu Agarwal. Okay. Okay. Just a minute. Ronit Sultania offline. वो लोग present कर रहे हैं या नहीं?
नहीं करते.
No, ma'am, they are not present.
Only 7 members of the group are presenting to us.
Got it. Yeah. Just a minute. Enabled share screen. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to present our case on Sears. Sears was actually one of the top retailers in United States of America. During 1940s, they decided to move into suburbs of American cities. So this move proved quite vital for them as they gained new customers and they had high profit and they were number one in retail industry at that time. But during 1980s, they started facing problems from Walmart and Kmart and they started losing their number one position because of the reason that they had very high operating cost and very high distributing cost, due to which they were unable to provide discounted rates or discounts or competitive prices to their customers, which were flocking towards other retailers. And another such problem with Sears was that their top management was the only one which was taking the decision. There was no feedback from the mid-level management or the lower level management towards the top level management. One such example of that was that in New Jersey, in one of their stores, they had still old clothes and jewelries in the stock as dummies. So in 1988, they decided to sell their Sears Towers, which is in Chicago, which is exactly where the company was founded. To save from damage control and to save their reputation, they started calling themselves as a fashion brand rather than retail industry. Their market share went down from 18% to 13%. And one such problem with Sears was that their employees were not ready for the changes which were going to happen in the retail industries. As retail industries was embracing a lot of changes, they were inefficient, indifferent, and ineffective in understanding that. And one big problem in Sears was that their top management was not adaptable to change. They did not like change at all. And since it was such a prestigious organization, they all thought that they are working as an American institution. One such example of their brashness and arrogance can be stated from the fact that during 1988, when their CEO was interviewed and asked whether he's facing some difficulties from other competition or not, he replied straight away that we are not in any difficult position and we are very well strategically placed. So this shows that Sears, how did Sears cope up with all these things. So the next of the slides will be explained by my friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Avinash. Now I will analyze the case study with the theories, Chandler's strategy and Porter's 3 model strategy. First, I'll go with Chandler's strategy and structural thesis. This thesis was a classic work on relationship between organization strategy and its structure, which was published in 1960. In this thesis, Chandler almost studied close to 100 of America's largest firm, which consists of Sears, General Motors, Standard Oil of New Jersey, etc. In this case study, as Avinash said, company began as a centralized structure. It expanded and developed different structure to cope up with changing strategy. So next, Porter's three generic strategies.